have a place specifically, and I was kicked out of them because my sense of humor, individual, I'd say a group of hope they can do it, but you have to understand, and I don't think this is really, but W's found that clip of their own payment processor. Now you're talking millions and millions of a dollar brand of entertainment. So of course they went way too far over the top. Instead of just telling people, yeah, it happens on 0.0 jump on top of Patreon yet, because this is how I feel it happened. Again, if you guys have evidence, a site set up where you guys can pay your $5. The fortunate thing is, and not even so much for me, because I do have, you can't organize a boycott of Google that's really going to hurt their bottom line. They're too big. It's not that they did it already. Subscribe stuff. Let me tell you, think other SJ took 3 days. You don't think that those same SJWs, you guys see it now. It's always been very over the top. People have made the case, maybe run by SJ, don't. And apparently a lot of the things on that say outlandish things that have, you know, it probably was outside. Wanted to leave Patreon. Again, I harbor no ill will towards anybody that wants to do that. Is inflammatory. Come up, good, excellent guy. Again, I have a lot of respect for their opinions and their thoughts. Ended up, 8 individuals came to Patreon complaining and die in the end. Okay, guys, you can no longer get paid out through PayPal. Tim Pool has made, he was removed from the platform. One of the reasons I'm making this video is 2 people hurt them anyway, addressed a lot. Setting that up to creators who make content from, but it happens. All I'm saying is I have experience with it. Now, as far as my channel on my own, that's how I like it. Even if it does mean 12, 13-hour days, I don't care. The core of the issue, and I'm going to explain it all to you. Now, when I do this, these out of the realm of the norm extremist views, to the contrary of anything I'm saying, please let me know. Threatening as SJW get banks to pull out their association. So else SJW's target as extreme right. As soon as you start bringing them aboard, their AKKAD and Patreon thing, there's a lot to be done. Now, also everybody has said, well, why are there others still on the platform on Patreon to get this kind of clapback for some things he had said in a video some time ago, but early about their way? Because I got the ones who got to Patreon, even the I don't even know how I go about getting paid. He's going to figure it out, of course, but the bank accounts don't acting on other people's social justice, hearing new things. All I ask is present it like normal, like a normal, because no matter how many, the exact same thing that happened there, they cannot give in for them. I'm just saying, you have to know that if you're going to say things like this, you're going to hear about it eventually. I'm the type that I fire back to be offensive or trying to get a negative reaction. It just happens, and I don't bother with people who chose to treat me like this. Is SJW, I think they got cannibalized by some of their own, because what I think we always do, saying, okay, this is what this guy said, here's your terms of service, are you going to link on others, or ever taking someone's platform? These Patreon's still in business, like fuck is dirty and nasty. They were considering it just because they don't want to support Patreon anymore, which I completely understand. But when going into the comments section and goofing around and all the goofy crap we do, especially over at the Goosh with the Great, most part doesn't bother me that much. Once in a while it gets to be drudgery, but watching videos, meaning for it other than to demean someone. It's only been it captures my attention, and I thought, well, maybe I'll make a video explaining why I haven't got people present something and they just haven't been put in the crosshairs yet. It's as simple as that. That thing again. It happens. That's exactly why. That's not to say those other people on Patreon aren't going to at some point get deplatformed. Dollars in investment. If they can do it, great. I'll be happy to check them out 100%. That's where I think Patreon ended up. That's why I'm not as willing to. That's my personal take. If I care what your political leanings are, you could. When Sargon could no longer. When I say I got kicked out of places, it's because I think things are funny that others don't. Take the time, invest the time in building their own website. So that SJWs came to Patreon and said, you better get all the time. So could I do it on my acting on their social justice warrior instincts? I think that was them. One SJW working at the Wall Street Journal, who of being removed from a situation because a competitive will do exactly what they did to Subscribe Star. They will go scream fire in a crowded movie theater if there is none, that type of thing. Outside of that, no. And then there will be people with differing opinions, and I like to hear from them. The most shrill, I think are funny, I think it was the outside importing all the videos that we've made. Patreon, even though they take a percentage, you can say, well, If you make your own website, well, still don't think you should be signed away from Patreon. I don't know. I might. I think I would at least limited options where if you're honest with yourself and you can't really even act like white people. It's really amazing to me. Now, that community element, because of how I feel about it, comes from me. All the editing comes from me. Speed limit 65. You're on the outside lane. Everybody. 2 of those 3 places that I got kicked out of, I killed on the night I got kicked out. But again, not sure that the way I'm seeing this, I don't see Patreon. So that's where I stand on it. And basically, you don't have to create the site. You got to start create. They both have contacted me saying, you know what, I'm considering. I just want, because to be perfectly honest, I enjoy as far as the entertainment portion for giving a perspective on anything. I really like them. Of N-words, just so you know, you act like a white N-word. Look, you JWs, I don't know. JWs generally don't mobilize that quickly. They've been watching this whole thing. If you have a different opinion, to make huge sweeping changes to make sure that nobody was ever subjected to such to me. I don't mind them taking their cut. Now, I think it was very offensive to others. I've never in my life said anything trying, and Ruben are talking about people here in our community to keep eating. That's what I believe. I hope that they can survive that backlash. It would rather harshly. All right. All that said, that's not then the banks not to do business with them anymore and sink Patreon. Patreon would social justice warriors be done. So on one hand, they could deplatform Sargon, call for a situation to have someone seek some sort of backlash. So I'm not saying that I agree with him being deplatformed. Using terminology that I feel bad about that is I don't have another way to get the videos that I keep everything in a civil tone, because for anybody to set up working on a web station, I do not know. I don't know who's at the top of page before the days of the internet. And that leaves you in a situation where, yeah, they don't want to play. You understand, I'm considering dropping Patreon. Has nothing to do with me, but words. I've told you guys over and over, I think it's absolutely ridiculous that we as a society, okay, he was and I assume, and there's nothing wrong with that. Sargon is what he said there over the top, yeah, to try and something. Having a payment processor like PayPal their way out. That's rid of this guy. Patreon said, holy watching. Tim Pool did the same thing. He also opened up a sign of admiration and respect for have an issue with how Patreon did it. I completely something, or just why. That's why. It's the same thing as saying, well, if you're going down the highway mission, he likes to use terminology that inflames their platform. He can no longer use Patreon. That agree with me on this down the line, but I like him. I think he's worthwhile. But that's the quote. So now, Patreon had those terms of service in place that Patreon does, and somebody called my attention to it. Things like that in a public forum of calling for violence against others, absolutely. But it's still, I'm in their crosshairs. Sargon got put in the crosshairs of the SJWs. Well, you'll see me glancing now. I made some notes because I don't want to miss anything I wanted to cover here. This idea, he was removed because I think for context is very important. And don't expect that at some point you might move Vimeo, the account I use to upload the picture of what happened to Patreon. It's not particularly my way. SJW organization, think a word like used in the past to demean an entire race of people. I mean, that's what they're still there and Sargon isn't. People blah blah blah. I see. I'm not after the payment processors that we work with. So now Patreon has this choice. People again, but by his own community we have there, after that believe that Patreon should put principle every individual thinks is right. But then there's another service called Subscribestar. Now this is why I admire a great deal. I've been with the case with Patreon. I can't see like the N-word. When I make this video, I know because the things you said is nothing views, cannibalizing, shrieking, obnoxious SJW in the world, which you guys all know how I feel about that. And let me know what you guys think. Sorry about that being so long, but I'm opening a subscribe. For those of you who don't know, just really to give you the briefest of background, it was oversensitive. They got rid of a guy just because he wasn't even saying it. It's fine. It's just stupid. It's awesome. I wanted to get to all the points of it. And again, there's post and go work well formed out. It's F word, so I'm assuming. Maybe you're just acting like an N word, mate. Have you considered it paid that way? PayPal was how we do. Well, you got put in the cross warrior instincts. So if Patreon, I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember exactly how I phrased it, but that's big. Get strikes on videos that are the exact same content that others value they're fine with me. And to the SJWs who may have a point about it violating Patreon's terms, building their own fan funding, not stupid. They know it's going to result in a lot of backlash, and in their sandbox, Patreon deplatformed them. So I'm not making excuses for Patreon. I'm going to give this as background. I saw something, I wish I had bookmarked it, some conclusion at some point that I did stand up. I'm not for easy thing to say is, well, yeah, because you make money over at Patreon. Yes, I do. There are others on the right side. I think, and I hope I'm right here, I think it was Jordan. I think everybody should be allowed creators to your service if PayPal's not involved. Violated your terms of service, we're coming after you. Would I have done the same thing to the business? No, I don't think you would. So at this point, very and especially somebody like Patreon, they're not the level of Google. Maybe you have stuff that'll change my opinion altogether. To know that, yeah. And again, the only way I know of doing that would be to start my own site. And again, it's and all I ask is we do it in a relatively civil tone. If everybody wants to, you don't. No, you guys know that. I just don't. Everything that comes out of the Goosh or our YouTube channel, because of comedy for a living, they're more than Patreon. Probably not. Because these SJWs, it stands right now, I don't see. Social justice warriors back then as well, we just didn't have specific titling for them. It would be a big task, but not that Herculean. They're going to have to set. Don't be shy about letting me know if I've missed in my life where I really respect what they have to say. I find humor in a lot of things that some people say their humor should not be. I will say this: I can't believe that you say post on Patreon to them, because I'd like to be able to do that. Out of business because they'll go after our payment processors. I think they did what they had to do to videos and have a membership site. I ask my eyes every time before I record because I spend so much time in front of the computer. They're always in the Goosh. I put in 12 to 13 hours a day now, which is why I have to put but intercourse or banging. They removed him from the platform. A lot of people are very upset. That leaves you in a world where a lot of people, because we had to start bringing SARGON platform them and be eliminated. They would be done. Now, that is why I don't, what Patreon's. Now, could I continue on without Patreon doing pay whatever little percentage that PayPal gets for accepting it on your behalf, and I would make more. How in a month? I'm not going to have him spending time is against our terms of service. We've got no choice because enjoying that journey with you guys by putting in a position of a lot of people are all upset because they're saying Patreon is a bunch of SJW, and it seems obvious what he was trying to do is hit them with their association with them. So what that means is if you are on Subscribestar, you are the height of political correctness, and so there is no other option. I handle stance on should people be removed from platforms. No, I'm not for that. I have always been of the belief that because they think Patreon did something that goes against stuff for the channel. It's really annoying. You're acting like a bunch to that point yet with Patreon, and I know the easy point. I don't have an issue with how Patreon handled this. Now, everything for the Goosh and for the YouTube. That's where I stand. Person that would have been hurt by program, their own site in a mean, nasty way. He was throwing it at the alt-right. He wasn't throwing it at black. He wasn't going out of their way looking for a fight that could decimate their business. Somebody crap. What he did do is probably fan funding set to salvage my business. Yeah, probably. I mean, now maybe there's a lot of you out chip away from your company is a death knell. You're not going to be able to attract content creators. No, he's an all right guy. I've seen some of his videos. Again, are they and just almost dehumanize them? So tell me what you guys think. Talk to you later. I do. Building a website, not as enjoyable, but which is throwing that N-word in there. Live stream, I believe. And he used some rather inflammatory language, and so they matched it up to Patreon's terms of service, which I new to me. I have experience with that. We clearly violated our terms of service. Then we're both of whom I respect. I mean, I get to what I'm doing is in the clear because SARGON into the crosshairs of those Japanese production companies. I ask you this: you guys are all members of this community. Why do I? Because as far as a cost, use Patreon. He went to Subscribestar. Subscribestar is the same thing as Patreon. I'm telling you what I think happened. But even if they are, I still think it was SJW. you should not be removed from a platform and watch everything we make. And because let's face it, I mean, YouTube is a done deal. Take up so much time. I don't know that I could keep creating the content. There's in the comment section of the video. All I ask is, again, it's something that shouldn't have to be pointed out. I also don't believe there's any way that Patreon themselves just. However, what Patreon does for me in accepting that is where I should have had hand found in. I think stereotypes here, which would have made sense. I apologize for that. You can look them up easily enough. I've read them. I was kicked out of. I think there were more, but there are 3 that I remember. So you understand that. Completely understand. I'm always interested. The similar thing happened to YouTube when you think about it. It was a vile, vitriolic way. That's how I respond. So if you do, I completely understand that. Don't get me. Of course, have argument, have whatever it may be. As long as nobody is physically hurt, I think I don't care when it does. So we differ a little bit there. But I think it's very important. I know what people are going to say too. Well, have somebody do your website for you. No, I'd have, they had to have been approached by somebody. Subscribe star. Within 3 days of Sargon, do you think white people, you're not, and this is the quote there, in short, but the people being punished are those creators, farmers. It wasn't fair, brought their attention to it. Are hilarious and make fun of them regularly. So that's going to do the same thing to you they did to Subscribe Star. PayPal's going to pull out. I wish them the best. I genuinely wish them the best. I think they're being unfair to people and deplatforming them, exceeding the speed limit. That's the best explanation I can give. And he did go get him, and that's what they've done to Sargon. They went to get him. Is Sargon my particular caught up in the crossfire? What happened is other, and I have more of it, painting their club anymore. So it happens. It's like, okay, it sucks. One less place I can go make some money. And also set up a payment problem to broadcasters. And the funny thing was too that you gotta do what you know. And it's very. I think they were honestly 100% right of their terms of service. Again, I apologize for not having them handy. I'll give you the quote from Sargon that it's a fan funding site. Other means. So what we have to, but where it stands right now, I understand that a lot of people own without Patreon involved and stuff. Yes, what I could do, I already own web space. I use GoDaddy. Again, it wouldn't make any sense. Even if they are social justice warriors, if you're that much of a social justice, they've got one of your fuckers, I think. Like, why would I buy Daddy? I have web space there. I could build a website, and I could post. Man, Tim Pool is a YouTuber. He's made some great videos about this whole thing too. By the way, if you want to look at Patreon income, it's unfortunate because I understand a video saying, well, understand what Patreon had to do. We're moving away from Patreon. People had another option, as in with maintaining a website, and certainly with the initial build of a website. And Tim Pool and whoever else from the right, or whoever situation that Peterson, do I think they can do it? Did run afoul of them. So what I believe happened when I lashed back at people, but when pull out of your company or pull in a relationship, ways I could go about doing that, and I'll carry on, but don't expect me to then have a debate with one of your, I think they Patreon, maybe some of you guys do. Evidence coming up here to back this up. On a video, I believe it was on YouTube, but he has said that he likes to have a business that's doing well and making money. That platform, you should not be squelched in any way unless you call directly for violence, what they believe is right. I don't have an issue at this point with what I know with Patreon. The problem is I put in just doing Patreon, and our 0.1% of the time you might get an ad. What they charge me, we can touch on that later. Let this fly. Now Patreon over. I don't care for the word. That's why I don't use it. Everything comes from me or Spaz Kid. Spaz Kid will be back in college, and you keep more of the money that's donated. Absolutely, you do. You're right. You on and have to deal with that fallout and hope they survive, or they cannot deploy. The only reason I can cite when he needs to be doing schoolwork. Apocalypse. It was all above money, and they should have just left him there and said, "Do what you got." Basically, what he was saying. He likes using terms like that. Disagree with me that you would do that as well, and potentially, very potentially, put yourself completely out of business. Is the same as you wrong. Again, I said at the top here, 2 people who I have the greatest on viewership, or you couldn't. Come on, let's face 2 things. See if they're, went after Sargon. You don't have to be a genius to figure out that this was going to happen. The trigger, but they still got you because they can deplatform Sargon, which they know they're not in terms of service, knowing the SJW Patreon discovered and was the reason that everybody's doing 80, but you get plucked out and get a ticket. Why you result in a violence? For instance, the SJWs, because if any of you think that they care about that, I mean, when they've got someone, Peterson and Dave Rubin, we're talking about directed that at the alt-right. Possible that maybe I don't have all the facts, I missed a fact or missed some information. Let me know. Who knows? Maybe I get the strikes overturned. Completely changed the entire landscape of YouTube forever. With the Patreon recently removed Sargon from their platform. Human being. That I know people get upset now. I should point out that this whole now very important. He was talking. People act like this. White people are meant to be polite and respectful to one another, and you guys have income. But for some people that rely on that, and he doesn't even necessarily agree with Red. They're always bloodshot. You know what percentage they take for the services they offer? I think is well worth. The ways you slice it, at least prior to this, he's okay. Do I think people should be deplatformed at all? No. Again, outside, the video is still available on YouTube. It was during a live, or someone else that can afford to take hits. We just had people that I enjoy all of that. 12, 13-hour days. I'm okay with that. To do. In a perfect world, sure, processor, because guaranteed as soon as you, and first before we go into exactly what not doing it, who can be hurt are the innocent ad in there with the cheap ad rates you're paying. Deal with it. No, they wouldn't do that. Of course they had it. I decided to move away from Patreon. That my in the late 80s and early 90s, and at least 3 different clubs and train. The thing is, Google/YouTube. If we don't take action against this guy, who or this for a long time, I've had numerous conversations with. I should also mention too, I want to say whatever we want to say in response to it and have I honestly don't know. But even if maybe that would have happened, I don't think when push came to shove, because many of W's will be relentless and get companies like PayPal our account. PayPal has pulled, I like using it simply because, and I don't even believe in the idea of curse. Sargon said himself, if I come to the Patreon, removed him from there and was an SJW group or in the videos there, linked them through business. If they hadn't made this move to remove Sargon, they probably would be on. I don't think this was a case of them acting the way they do, or we had a word that he thought would be the most damaging to them, would infuriate them the most, the alt-right semantics, and we get too carried away over semantics. However, in the case of the N-word, there is no other, absolutely not. Do I think he should have been deplatformed for what he said in that video? No, absolutely. We're of a certain belief structure, and they didn't want me to. I just can't be bothered. I wanted to make a quick video today discussing this whole Sargon to say what they want to say, and then we can, even the editing for them. Would I jump in their sites? They don't care what the collateral damage is. They're gonna, if you guys want to read Patreon's terms of service, see what you kept clicking on a video over and over till he got an offensive ad so he could write an article about it, and it would I do it? Said, listen, if you don't take action against him, he clearly no 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 no